Lieutenant Susan Carter couldn't believe her eyes as she stared at the holographic display in front of her. The massive radar system that monitored the outer edges of the solar system was lighting up like a Christmas tree. Hundreds of unknown objects were appearing at the edge of Pluto's orbit, moving in perfect formation. "This can't be right," she muttered, running another diagnostic on the system. The results came back the same. She reached for the communication panel and pressed the emergency alert button. "Command, this is Lieutenant Carter at Deep Space Monitoring Station 7. We have multiple unknown contacts entering the system. I repeat, multiple unknown contacts." The response came almost immediately. "Copy that, Lieutenant. Stand by." Within minutes, the command center of Earth Defense Fleet Headquarters was buzzing with activity. Admiral Mary Thompson stood at the central command platform, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, her face illuminated by the glow of dozens of holographic screens. "What do we know?" she asked, her voice cutting through the chaos. "The objects are definitely ships, Admiral," reported Captain John Martinez from his station. "Their formation is too precise to be natural. We're counting over 300 vessels of various sizes." The Admiral's face remained calm, but her eyes narrowed. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades, building up their defenses in secret while maintaining a facade of being a relatively primitive spacefaring civilization. Now it seemed their caution would be put to the test. "Send out the first contact package," she ordered. "Let's see if they're here to talk." The response came 3 hours later, and it wasn't what anyone had hoped for. A transmission burst through all communication channels, broadcasting in perfect English, a fact that immediately put everyone on edge. The voice was deep and artificial sounding, like it was being processed through multiple translation layers. "People of Earth, we are the Kralaxian Empire. Your system now falls within our expansion zone. Submit to colonization or face immediate military action. You have 1 Earth hour to respond." Commander Peter Walsh of the EDF flagship Intrepid was chosen to respond to the transmission. His ship was officially listed as a research vessel that packed enough firepower to level a small continent. "Kralaxian Empire, this is Commander Walsh of Earth. We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations, but we cannot and will not submit to colonization. We request peaceful dialogue and—" The Kralaxians cut him off mid-sentence. "Your primitive vessels and technology levels have been assessed. Resistance would be futile and wasteful. We will demonstrate the consequences of defiance." Before anyone could react, a bright beam of energy lanced out from one of the alien ships, striking the Galileo research station near Jupiter. The station, home to 53 scientists and support staff, erupted in a silent explosion. The command center fell deadly quiet. Admiral Thompson's hands gripped the railing of her platform so hard her knuckles turned white. When she spoke, her voice was steady but cold. "So be it," she said. "Initialize Defense Protocol Omega. Activate all hidden fleet assets. Deploy the ghost ships." Throughout the solar system, something remarkable began to happen. Hundreds of advanced warships suddenly appeared, dropping their sophisticated cloaking fields. They had been hiding in plain sight for years, behind moons, in asteroid fields, and in the atmosphere of gas giants. Each ship was a masterpiece of human military engineering, incorporating technologies that Earth had officially been decades away from developing. From his position on the Intrepid, Commander Walsh watched as the real Earth Defense Fleet revealed itself. The ships were sleek and dark, almost predatory in their design. Their hulls were covered in layers of quantum armor, and their weapon systems made the Kralaxian energy weapons look primitive in comparison. "All ships, battle formations," Walsh ordered. "The Kralaxians want to see what humanity is capable of. Let's show them." The alien fleet seemed to pause, their sensors no doubt trying to make sense of the sudden appearance of so many warships. Their confusion was evident in their next transmission, which lacked the previous arrogance. "What deception is this? Your technological level was assessed as pre-interstellar. Explain." Admiral Thompson took great pleasure in responding personally. The explanation is simple. You made the classic mistake of assuming that what you could see was all that existed. Humanity learned long ago that it's better to be underestimated. Now you have exactly 1 Earth hour to leave our system, or we will demonstrate exactly why that was a serious error in judgment. The Kralaxians responded with action rather than words. Their fleet began to move forward, energy weapons charging, but they were in for another surprise. As their first volley of shots fired, they passed right through several human ships as if they weren't there. Ghost drive technology engage, reported Lieutenant Carter, who had been transferred to the fleet's tactical command center. The enemy cannot get a solid weapons lock on any of our vessels. The human fleet's response was devastating. Concentrated bursts of quantum torpedoes ripped through the Kralaxian shields like they were made of paper. The alien ship's energy weapons, while impressive against conventional materials, were useless against the advanced quantum shielding of the Earth vessels. Multiple enemy ships disabled, reported Captain Martinez from his tactical station. Their weapons can't penetrate our defenses. We're receiving surrender signals from several vessels. But before the battle could proceed further, the main Kralaxian fleet pulled back, retreating to the edge of the solar system. Their final transmission was brief. This is not over. The Empire will not forget this deception. In the aftermath, Admiral Thompson called an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council. The holograms of military leaders from around the world flickered to life in the command center. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, what happened today was just the beginning. The Kralaxians will return, and they'll bring reinforcements. But they've lost the element of surprise, and more importantly, they've lost their misconceptions about human capabilities. Commander Walsh stepped forward. Our intelligence suggests they'll need at least 3 months to gather a large enough fleet to try again. That gives us time to prepare, to reveal more of our advanced weapons systems, and to send a message to any other alien civilizations watching, added Lieutenant Carter. Humanity is not to be underestimated. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Thompson stood at the window of the command center, looking out at Earth glowing blue and peaceful below. Humanity had kept its advanced military capabilities hidden for precisely this kind of situation, and the gambit had paid off. But this was just the first battle in what would likely be a long war. The Kralaxians had made a crucial mistake. They had judged humanity by its appearance rather than its potential. They hadn't realized that humans had spent their entire history preparing for conflicts, constantly innovating, adapting, and overcoming challenges. Now they would learn why every human child knew the story of the Trojan horse, and why deception had always been humanity's greatest weapon in warfare. As the Earth Defense Fleet resumed its hidden positions throughout the solar system, one thing was clear. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. 2 weeks after the first Kralaxian attack, Captain John Martinez stood on the bridge of his ship, the Nighthawk, watching his crew prepare for humanity's first major counterattack. The ship's ghost drive hummed quietly, making them completely invisible to enemy sensors. All systems ready, Captain, reported his first officer, Sarah Wells. Ghost drive is stable, and quantum shields are at full power. Martinez nodded, his dark eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Kralaxians had established a forward base on one of Neptune's moons, thinking they were safely hidden from Earth's supposedly primitive detection systems. They were wrong. Begin Operation Phantom Strike, he ordered. All ships, execute jump sequence. Across the solar system, 30 human warships activated their ghost drives simultaneously. The technology wasn't just a cloaking device. It partially shifted the ships into another dimension, making them literally pass through solid matter. It was humanity's greatest military secret, and the Kralaxians were about to learn just how effective it was. In the engineering section of the Nighthawk, Chief Engineer Laura Baker monitored the power systems. The Ghost Drive was her baby. She helped design it during her years at the secret Mars research facility. But today, they were also testing something even more impressive. Project Thunderbolt is armed and ready, she reported through the comm system. Micro-singularity containment fields are stable. The alien base came into view on their screens. It was massive, with defensive turrets and energy shields that would have been impressive against conventional weapons. But this wasn't going to be a conventional attack. All ships in position, Martinez announced. Begin Phase 1. The human fleet emerged from Ghost Phase in a perfect circle around the base. Before the Kralaxians could even react, each ship fired special missiles that passed right through the alien shields as if they weren't there. The missiles detonated, creating tiny controlled black holes that lasted for just seconds. But it was enough. The Kralaxian defense turrets were torn apart by the intense gravitational forces. Their shields, designed to stop energy and physical weapons, were useless against the fundamental force of gravity itself. Direct hits confirmed, called out Lieutenant Paul Rivera from Tactical. Their outer defenses are down. The alien base erupted in chaos. Kralaxian ships tried to launch, but the human fleet was ready. The Nighthawk led the attack, its quantum weapons cutting through the enemy vessels with surgical precision. From his command post on Earth, Intelligence Officer Daniel Wright watched the battle through real-time feeds. His job was to analyze Kralaxian tactics and technology, and what he saw confirmed his earlier reports. Admiral Thompson, he called out, the Kralaxians are following textbook responses. They have no improvisation, no adaptation. They're fighting exactly as their military doctrine dictates. The Admiral smiled. And that's their weakness. They expect everyone else to be as rigid as they are. Back at Neptune, the battle was turning into a rout. The Kralaxian ships, despite their impressive size and firepower, couldn't hit what they couldn't track. The ghost drive technology made human ships impossible to target, while the quantum weapons and micro-singularity warheads were overwhelming their defenses. Enemy commander requesting communication, reported Sarah Wells. Martinez straightened his uniform. On screen, the Kralaxian commander appeared on the main display. Its alien features were rigid with what humans would later learn was their expression of shock. How is this possible? It demanded. Your species was assessed. You were primitive. You assessed what we wanted you to assess. Martinez replied calmly. Humanity learned long ago that appearing weak while being strong is far better than appearing strong while being weak. In the engineering section, Laura Baker was documenting the performance of Project Thunderbolt. The micro-singularity weapons had exceeded all expectations. They weren't just effective. They were revolutionary. The weapons created miniature black holes that lasted just long enough to tear apart enemy defenses before safely dissipating. Chief Baker, Martinez called over the comm. Status report on Thunderbolt. Better than we hoped, Captain, she replied, her eyes scanning the data. The containment fields are holding perfectly. We can safely deploy these weapons anywhere in the solar system. The remaining Kralaxian ships began to retreat, their formation broken. Several ships were captured intact, providing valuable intelligence for the battles to come. Intelligence Officer Wright's analysis team began immediate study of the captured vessels. What they found was revealing. The Kralaxian technology, while advanced, was predictable. They had followed the same development path for centuries, never thinking to look for alternatives. They're trapped in their own success, Wright explained to Admiral Thompson. They found one way that worked and stuck to it. But humans, we never stop looking for new solutions. The Admiral called a meeting of the Earth Defense Council to discuss the victory. The holographic chambers filled with military leaders from around the world. Today's victory was significant, she began, but it's just the beginning. The Kralaxians will return with new tactics, trying to counter what they've seen. But they don't understand. What they saw today was just the first layer of our capabilities. Captain Martinez joined the meeting via hologram from the Nighthawk. The ghost drive proved itself beyond any doubt. The enemy literally cannot fight what they cannot hit, and Project Thunderbolt gives us a weapon they have no defense against. Chief Baker's hologram appeared next. We're already working on improvements to both systems. The ghost drive can be modified to allow for longer phase periods, and we can make the microsingularities even more controlled. The victory at Neptune changed the nature of the war. The Kralaxians had expected to face a primitive species struggling to defend itself. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that had deliberately hidden its true capabilities, an enemy that could strike anywhere without warning and possessed weapons that defied their understanding of physics. As the captured Kralaxian base was studied, humanity prepared for the next phase of the war. The enemy would return, but they would find that humans had more surprises waiting. The Ghost Drive and Project Thunderbolt were just the beginning. Intelligence Officer Wright's final report of the day summed it up perfectly. The Kralaxians made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. They looked at our visible technology and judged us by their standards. They never considered that we might be hiding our true capabilities, never imagined that our apparent weakness was a carefully constructed deception. They're fighting the war they expected to fight, while we're fighting the war we prepared for. That's why they'll lose. As the Earth Defense Fleet resumed its hidden positions throughout the solar system, humanity's message to the galaxy was clear. Underestimate us at your own risk. Major Lisa Foster sat in the cockpit of her stealth fighter, watching the stars through the transparent canopy. Her squadron of 12 ships hung silently in space, hidden by their ghost drives. They were waiting for their target, a massive Kralaxian supply convoy heading toward their new base in the asteroid belt. Shadow Squadron, status check, she whispered into her comm. Even though the enemy couldn't detect their communications, old habits died hard. All ships ready, Major, came the quiet response from her second-in-command, Lieutenant Kevin Hunt. Ghost drives stable. Quantum torpedoes armed. The convoy appeared right on schedule. 20 large transport ships, protected by 5 warships. The Kralaxians still hadn't learned. They kept using the same routes, the same formations, making the same mistakes. Begin attack pattern Delta, Foster ordered. Remember, supply ships first, then the escorts. Her squadron split into 3 groups, each taking different attack vectors. The Ghost Drive technology had been improved even further by Dr. Andrew Phillips and his AI development team. Now they could pass through solid matter for almost 10 minutes before needing to recharge. The first explosion took the Kralaxians completely by surprise. 4 supply ships suddenly split apart, their cargo spilling into space. The escort ships fired blindly, their weapons passing harmlessly through the phantom-like human fighters. Second wave. Execute, Foster commanded, leading her group straight through an enemy warship. As they passed through its hull, they dropped their new weapons, tiny eye-guided drones that materialized inside the alien vessel. The results were devastating. The drones targeted critical systems, destroying the ships from the inside. Within minutes, the entire convoy was either destroyed or disabled. Back on Mars, Colonel Christopher Bennett prepared his ground forces for their most important mission yet, reclaiming the Red Planet's colonies. The Kralaxians had captured several dome cities during their initial invasion, but they were about to learn why humans excelled at ground combat. Remember your training, he told his troops as they checked their powered armor suits. The enemy relies on energy weapons. Our quantum shields make those nearly useless. Get in close, use physical ammunition, and stay unpredictable. The attack began at dawn, Mars time. Human dropships, hidden by Ghost Drive technology, landed right inside the dome cities. Bennett led the charge into the largest colony, New Hope. Contact front, shouted Sergeant Alice Cooper as the first Kralaxians appeared. The aliens were tall and heavily armored, but their tactics were painfully predictable. The battle for New Hope lasted just 3 hours. The Kralaxians, used to fighting at range with energy weapons, had no answer for human soldiers who could appear literally anywhere and who fought with a mix of advanced technology and brutal close combat techniques. But victory came with a disturbing discovery. Dr. Catherine Morris, the chief medical officer for the ground forces, found evidence of biological weapons in the Kralaxian command center. They were planning to release engineered viruses, she reported to Colonel Bennett, trying to target human DNA specifically. The news reached Earth quickly. Admiral Thompson called an emergency meeting with Dr. Phillips and his AI research team. "We need a counter to these biological weapons," she demanded. "Something they won't expect." Dr. Phillips smiled. "We already have it. Our AI systems have been analyzing Kralaxian biology since the first encounters. We can release nanobots that will destroy their bioweapons before they can deploy them." The Admiral nodded. "Make it happen. And get ready for the next phase. We're taking this fight to their territory." Operation Lightspeed began 3 days later. It was humanity's first major offensive beyond the solar system. Major Foster's squadron led the way, using their ghost drives to scout ahead of the main fleet. The human ships emerged from faster-than-light travel near a major Kralaxian staging area. The aliens had gathered a massive fleet, preparing for another attack on Earth. They weren't expecting the humans to strike first. "All ships, commence attack," ordered Admiral Thompson from her flagship. "Show them why humanity has survived every threat we've ever faced." The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. Human ships, using their ghost drives and AI-enhanced combat systems, ran circles around the Kralaxian fleet. The aliens couldn't adapt fast enough to the constantly changing human tactics. Dr. Phillips watched from the Tactical Command Center as his AI systems predicted and countered every Kralaxian move. "They're still fighting by their rulebook," he observed. "Still can't understand why we don't do the same." The Kralaxian staging area fell within 6 hours. The enemy lost over 200 ships, while the human fleet suffered minimal damage. More importantly, they captured intact navigational data, showing the locations of other Kralaxian military bases. Colonel Bennett's ground forces secured the enemy space station, finding more evidence of biological weapon research. Dr. Morris and her team moved quickly to neutralize the threat, releasing clouds of nanobots that broke down the dangerous compounds. "The enemy doesn't understand us," Bennett told his troops after the battle. "They think we're primitive because we still use physical weapons alongside energy ones. They don't get that humanity never abandons a useful tool just because we found a new one." Major Foster's squadron continued to wreak havoc on Kralaxian supply lines. Her hit-and-run tactics were so successful that the aliens began calling her ships ghost demons in their communications. "They still haven't figured it out," she told her pilots during a debriefing. "They keep trying to find a pattern in our attacks, but we keep changing everything. Timing, targets, tactics. We're writing new rules for space combat, and they can't keep up." Back on Earth, Admiral Thompson prepared for the next phase of the war. The Kralaxians were on the defensive now, but they were still dangerous. Intelligence suggested they were reaching out to other alien species, trying to form alliances against humanity. "Let them try," she told her command staff. "Every species in this galaxy needs to understand. Humanity isn't just another civilization to be conquered. We're something they've never seen before." As Part 3 of the war drew to a close, one thing was becoming clear to every alien observer. The humans weren't just winning battles, they were revolutionizing warfare itself. Every engagement brought new tactics, new technologies, new ways of fighting that the Kralaxians couldn't predict or counter. The galaxy was learning a lesson that Earth's history had taught countless times. Never corner a species that had survived and thrived by constantly adapting, innovating, and overcoming impossible odds. The human counter-offensive wasn't just changing the course of the war. It was changing the balance of power in the galaxy itself. News of human victory spread quickly through the galaxy. On the bridge of her ship, Starcutter, Captain Michelle Rodriguez watched as another alien fleet appeared at the edge of human-controlled space. But this time, they weren't Kralaxian vessels. "Unknown ships holding position," reported her sensor officer, John Adams. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies. It's a request for peaceful contact." The new aliens called themselves the Vendari. They were a species that had long resisted Kralaxian expansion, and they were very interested in humanity's success against their common enemy. "We have watched your battles with great interest," the Vendari ambassador said during their first meeting. The alien was tall and slender, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. No one has ever defeated the Kralaxians so thoroughly. Rodriguez sat across from the ambassador in the ship's conference room. Her orders were clear: listen to what they had to say, but reveal nothing about Earth's military capabilities. "The Kralaxians made a mistake," she replied simply. "They thought what they could see was all that existed." The Vendari's expression changed, and what Rodriguez's cultural training suggested was amusement. "Yes, they did. And now they scramble to unite other species against you. They tell everyone that humans are too dangerous to be allowed to expand further." Meanwhile, back in human space, Strategic Officer William Parker studied reports from across the galaxy. The war was having effects far beyond the battlefield. "Multiple species are reaching out for diplomatic contact," he reported to Admiral Thompson. "Some want alliances, others want trade agreements. A few are even asking for protection against the Kralaxians." The Admiral leaned back in her chair, considering the implications. The balance of power is shifting. We're no longer just fighting a war. We're reshaping galactic politics. The Kralaxians were indeed busy trying to build a coalition against Earth. Their ambassadors traveled from system to system, showing footage of human ghost ships passing through solid matter, of micro-singularity weapons tearing apart their invincible defenses. "These humans are too unpredictable," they argued, "too innovative. They don't fight according to any proper military doctrine. They must be stopped before they become too powerful." But their efforts were having an unexpected effect. Instead of fear, many species felt admiration for human ingenuity. Dr. Andrew Phillips found himself hosting delegations from various alien civilizations, all interested in learning about human AI technology. "Your artificial intelligences are unique," one alien scientist told him. "They don't just follow rules. They think creatively, like you do." Major Lisa Foster's stealth squadron was assigned to protect these diplomatic meetings. Her ships patrolled invisibly, making sure no Kralaxian forces tried to interfere. "Quiet patrol today," Lieutenant Hunt reported during one such mission. "Though our sensors picked up some interesting chatter. Apparently, several smaller species are declaring themselves neutral in this conflict. They don't want to risk being on the wrong side." The war had evolved into something much larger than a simple territorial conflict. Humanity's methods of warfare had shaken the foundations of galactic military doctrine. Species that had fought the same way for thousands of years were suddenly questioning everything they knew. Colonel Bennett saw this firsthand during a joint training exercise with Vendari ground forces. The aliens were amazed by human tactics. "You combine primitive projectile weapons with advanced energy weapons," a Vendari officer observed. "You fight at range and in close combat. You use stealth and direct assault. How do you master so many different methods?" Bennett smiled. "Because we never stop learning. Every new challenge is a chance to adapt and improve." Back on Earth, Admiral Thompson met with the Defense Council to discuss the changing situation. The holograms of military leaders filled the chamber as they reviewed the latest intelligence. "The Kralaxians are losing support," reported Strategic Officer Parker. "Their attempts to paint us as dangerous are backfiring. Other species see us as proof that the old ways of warfare can be challenged." Dr. Catherine Morris added her own insights from studying various alien biological samples. "Many species are fascinated by human adaptability, not just in warfare, but in everything. We change and grow faster than any species they've encountered." The Vendari Alliance proposal was just the beginning. Other species began approaching Earth with similar offers. Each one had seen how humanity fought and wanted to learn these new methods. Captain Rodriguez found herself conducting more diplomatic meetings than combat patrols. They all asked the same question, she told her crew. "How did we hide our true capabilities for so long? How did we develop such different ways of fighting?" The answer was simple, though few aliens truly understood it. Humans had spent their entire history fighting each other, constantly developing new weapons and tactics. They had learned deception from their own wars, learned to hide their strength until the right moment. Dr. Phillips worked with the Vendari to create new combat systems that combined human eye with their technology. The key, he explained, is not to rely on any single advantage. Always have multiple options, multiple ways to fight. The Kralaxians made one final attempt to unite the galaxy against Earth. They called a meeting of the major species to warn them about the human threat. Look at their weapons, the Kralaxian ambassador argued. Ghost drives that ignore physical laws, weapons that create black holes, AIs that think like living beings. They are too unpredictable, too dangerous. But another ambassador responded with what would become a famous quote, "Perhaps the real threat is not human unpredictability, but Kralaxian rigidity. They show us that there are always new ways to solve old problems." Major Foster summed it up well during a debriefing with her squadron. The Kralaxians thought they could turn the galaxy against us by showing how differently we fight. Instead, they've shown everyone why we're winning. As Part 4 of the war drew to a close, humanity found itself in an unexpected position. They had entered the galactic stage as defenders against invasion. Now they were becoming leaders of a new coalition, teaching other species that innovation and adaptation were more powerful than tradition and doctrine. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the center of that change. The war wasn't just about defeating the Kralaxians anymore. It was about showing the galaxy a new way forward, a path where creativity and adaptability were valued over rigid adherence to tradition. And the Kralaxians, watching their influence fade, finally began to understand their greatest mistake. They hadn't just underestimated humanity's military strength. They had failed to understand that humans thrived on challenges, grew stronger from adversity, and never, ever stopped innovating. Admiral Mary Thompson stood on the bridge of her flagship Defender, looking at the massive holographic display showing the final battle plans. After months of preparation, the Earth Defense Fleet was ready to strike at the heart of the Kralaxian Empire. "All fleet commanders report ready," announced Captain John Martinez, now serving as her second-in-command. "The Vendari forces are in position as well." Thompson nodded, her gray hair reflecting the blue light of the tactical displays. This would be the largest military operation in human history. Over 500 Earth ships, supported by 300 Vendari vessels, all using modified versions of human ghost drive technology. "Send the message," she ordered. "All ships, commence Operation Endgame." The combined fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel, appearing directly inside Kralaxian space. The enemy had built massive sensor networks to detect incoming ships, but they were useless against vessels using ghost drive technology. Major Lisa Foster's stealth squadron led the attack. Her ships passed through the outer defenses of the Kralaxian homeworld like ghosts through walls, their improved AI systems identifying and targeting key military installations. "Primary targets marked," she reported. "Beginning Phase 1. The micro-singularity weapons have been refined even further by Chief Engineer Laura Baker. Now they could control exactly how long the miniature black holes lasted, allowing for precise strategic strikes that disable defenses while minimizing civilian casualties." On the ground, Colonel Christopher Bennett's forces, including both human and Vendari troops, used their ghost phase technology to appear directly inside key military facilities. The Kralaxians, for all their military might, had never prepared for enemies who could literally walk through walls. "Remember," Bennett told his troops, "we're here to end this war, not destroy their civilization. Secure your objectives with minimal collateral damage." Dr. Andrew Phillips coordinated the AI warfare systems from his command center. The artificial intelligences had evolved far beyond their original programming, now capable of predicting and countering Kralaxian tactics before they even happened. "Their command and control systems are completely overwhelmed," he reported. "They can't coordinate their defenses effectively." The Kralaxian High Command, watching their supposedly impregnable defenses fall, finally realized the full extent of their mistake. They had spent centuries building their military doctrine on the assumption that warfare followed fixed rules. Humans had shown them that the only real rule was that rules could be broken. "Incoming transmission," Martinez announced. "It's from the Kralaxian Emperor." The alien leader appeared on the main screen, its rigid features showing what humans had learned to recognize as resignation. "We request terms for surrender," it said simply. Commander Peter Walsh, who had faced the first Kralaxian ultimatum so many months ago, was chosen to handle the surrender negotiations. He met with the Kralaxian leadership in their Grand Council chamber, a room that had never seen alien visitors before. "Your terms are surprisingly generous," the Kralaxian Emperor noted as they reviewed the peace treaty. Walsh smiled. "We're not here to destroy you. We're here to show you a better way forward. The galaxy is changing. You can change with it, or be left behind." The terms were indeed generous. The Kralaxians would keep their homeworld and core systems, but had to abandon their empire. They would join the new Galactic Defense Coalition, an alliance of species led by humanity and the Vendari, focused on mutual protection and technological exchange. Lieutenant Susan Carter, who had detected the first Kralaxian ships entering human space, was now tasked with writing the official report of the war for Earth's historical records. She sat in her office, thinking about how to summarize everything that had happened. In the end, she wrote, "The Kralaxian War wasn't just about military victory. It was about showing the galaxy a new way of thinking. Humans didn't win because we were stronger or more advanced. We won because we were more adaptable, more innovative, and most importantly, because we understood that appearing weak while being strong is often the best strategy." The aftermath of the war brought rapid changes to the galaxy. The Galactic Defense Coalition grew quickly, with dozens of species joining. Each brought their own unique perspectives and technologies, but all were eager to learn from humanity's example. Dr. Catherine Morris found herself working with alien medical scientists, sharing human insights about adaptation and evolution. "Your species fascinates us," one alien researcher told her. "You change so quickly, yet remain so stable. How do you balance these things?" Strategic Officer William Parker helped coordinate the integration of various species into the Coalition's combined fleet. The sight of ships from 20 different civilizations training together, all using variations of human tactical doctrines, filled him with pride. "We're teaching them more than just how to fight," he told Admiral Thompson. "We're teaching them how to think differently, how to adapt and grow." The Vendari proved to be humanity's closest allies. Their civilization, which had resisted the Kralaxians for so long, understood better than most the value of innovation and adaptation. "Our people are different," the Vendari ambassador told Captain Rodriguez during a diplomatic function, "but we share something important, the understanding that standing still means death. Growth and change are the only constants in the universe." A year after the war's end, Earth hosted the first Galactic Defense Coalition Summit. Representatives from 50 alien species gathered to discuss the future of galactic civilization. Admiral Thompson, now serving as Earth's representative, opened the session with a speech that would be remembered for centuries. "The war taught us all an important lesson," she said. "The universe is too vast, too complex, too full of wonders and dangers to cling to rigid ways of thinking. Humanity doesn't claim to have all the answers. What we offer instead is a way of finding answers, through adaptation, innovation, and the understanding that today's impossible is tomorrow's routine." The Kralaxians, to everyone's surprise, proved to be excellent students of this new philosophy. Once they abandoned their rigid military doctrine, they discovered their own capacity for innovation. Their scientists began working with humans on new technologies that combined the best of both civilizations. Lieutenant Carter ended her war report with a reflection that captured the spirit of humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage. "We entered this war as defenders of our solar system. We ended it as teachers, showing the galaxy that the true strength of any species lies not in the weapons they possess or the territories they control, but in their ability to adapt, to innovate, and to imagine new possibilities. The Kralaxians thought they were fighting a primitive species. Instead, they helped introduce the galaxy to a new way of thinking, a new way of growing, a new way of living among the stars. And perhaps that was the greatest victory of all, not the defeat of an enemy, but the birth of a new era where the combined creativity and adaptability of multiple species would take us all to heights we never imagined possible. As the Earth Defense Fleet settled into its new role as peacekeepers of the coalition, the galaxy watched and learned. Humanity had not just won a war. They had revolutionized how civilizations thought about conflict, cooperation, and progress. The age of rigid empires was over. The age of innovation and adaptation had begun.